The crash and the dark jungle smoke curled into the alien sky, black and thick, rising from the wreckage of a small escape pod that had slammed into the jungle below like a meteor. Branches cracked and hissed as flames chewed through the canopy, casting flickering shadows over the green floor that pulsed with glowing moss. Derek Hunter opened his eyes to pain. His side throbbed, and blood soaked the shredded fabric of his uniform. He tried to sit up, but the vines and wreckage held him. Like a cage, his ears rang. But not from the crash. Something else echoed through the jungle. A deep growl, low and hungry. The last thing he remembered was the orbital battle above a nameless moon. The explosion, and then darkness. Now he was stranded, wounded, and unarmed. He pulled himself free from the twisted metal. Gritting his teeth as thorns dug into his skin, every step he took sent pain shooting through his leg. But he moved anyway. The dense jungle around him hissed with life. Eyes watched from the shadows. Too many to count. And then he saw it, a pair of them, glowing blue eyes in the dark, unmoving, staring at him like a predator judging its prey. He raised a broken pipe. It's the only weapon he had, ready to fight. But the creature didn't leap. Instead, a roar erupted from behind him. Something massive lunged, a beast with fangs like daggers and claws, as long as his fingers. Derek turned, expecting death, but a blur of green muscle and motion slammed into the beast before it reached him. A figure, fast and savage, wrestled the creature to the ground with a spear and inhuman strength. It was a girl, or something like one. Her skin was green and marked with strange glowing patterns, her long black hair wild, and her clothes made from animal skins and vines. She pinned the beast, stabbed it through the throat, and stood slowly as it stopped moving. Derek stared at her in shock. She looked back, her head tilted slightly like she didn't understand what he was. Or maybe she did and simply didn't care. Then, without a word, she grabbed his wrist. Her grip was strong, too strong, and her hands were rough with scars. She pulled him into the jungle before he could protest. They moved quickly through the underbrush, her bare feet making no sound, while Derek struggled to keep up. His leg burned, and branches whipped across his face. But the girl didn't stop. When he stumbled, she caught him with surprising gentleness. After an hour of running, they reached a rocky ledge over a small waterfall. The girl let go of his wrist and motioned for him to sit, then she disappeared into the trees. Derek collapsed onto the mossy rock, his lungs aching. He didn't know what just happened. Was she friend or foe? Did she help him? Was it because she needed something? Or was he just bait for something worse? Before he could answer any of those questions, she returned. She dropped a bundle of leaves beside him, opened it, and began treating his wounds. She crushed berries into paste and spread it across his cuts, her fingers fast but careful. She didn't speak, she didn't smile, but she didn't hurt him either. Derek tried speaking, but she only stared at his lips and tilted her head again. She didn't understand him, or maybe she simply chose not to. As night fell, strange lights filled the sky, and the jungle came alive with the howls of unseen creatures. The girl sat beside him, her spear resting across her lap, her eyes never closing. She was a guardian in the dark, wild and beautiful, dangerous and silent, and Derek realized something strange. He wasn't scared anymore. He was still hurt, still lost, still confused, but something about her presence kept the fear away. Not safety, not comfort, but something else, something ancient, something watching over him when he finally drifted into sleep. He knew two things for sure. One, he wouldn't survive long on this planet alone, and two, whatever this wild alien girl wanted, it had nothing to do with saving him. It was something more, something much more dangerous. Asterisk.
Asterisk.
The language of claws and silence when Derek opened his eyes. The world was blue. The canopy above was glowing faintly. Like starlight filtered through water, he was no longer on the rock ledge. He was tied to a thick tree with long, green vines, not tight enough to hurt, but strong enough to hold him. His arms were loose at his sides, but his legs were bound at first. Panic hit him like a wave. Then he saw her. The wild alien girl sat nearby, sharpening her spear with a bone blade. Her glowing eyes didn't blink as she watched him. She was waiting for him to wake up, or maybe for something else. Derek struggled slightly. Testing the vines, she growled low, not in anger, but like a warning. He stopped moving. His heart pounded. But the fear was different now. It wasn't fear of death. It was the fear of not understanding what she wanted. She stood, walked toward him, and crouched down. Then she reached into a pouch tied at her waist and pulled out a smooth black stone. She pressed it to his chest and held it there for several seconds. The stone pulsed with a warm light, then turned dim. She looked disappointed and walked away. Derek had no idea what just happened. She picked up a stick and drew something in the dirt at first. It was just shaped circles, triangles, strange waves. Then she drew him a human stick figure with fire behind it. Next to that, she drew herself taller, curved with a glowing line between them. She pointed to herself, then to him, and then to the glowing line. Derek blinked. Was she saying they were connected? Or that they needed to be? Before he could ask, a noise shattered the quiet. A snarl echoed from deeper in the jungle, closer than before. The girl stood quickly and spun her spear around, pointing it toward the sound. From the shadows emerged three creatures, thin, pale, with open mouths full of needle teeth. They moved like shadows, crawling low and fast. Derek struggled against the vines. But the girl didn't even glance at him. She stepped forward, calm, eyes locked on the lead creature. Then she roared, not just loud, but deep, like it came from her bones. The jungle froze. The creatures paused, confused. In that second, she struck. Her spear flew through the air, stabbing the first in the chest. She pulled a curved blade from her back and charged the others with terrifying speed. Derek couldn't believe what he saw. She moved like liquid fire, ducking, slicing, spinning between them in less than 20 seconds. All three creatures were dead. She breathed hard, blood on her arms, chest rising and falling. Then she returned to him, cut the vines, and stepped back. No words, just silence. Derek rubbed his wrists, then stood slowly. He wanted to thank her, but what could he say? He took a small step forward, then hesitated. She didn't move. Then he pointed to himself, then to her, and nodded. She blinked, surprised, then looked down. She didn't nod back, but she didn't stop him either. Later that night, she sat beside a fire she built with dry moss and crystal stones. The flames shimmered blue. Derek sat across from her, watching as she carved meat from one of the dead beasts and roasted it on a spit. She didn't eat first. She handed the first piece to him. He took it slowly and nodded. It tasted strange, bitter, but he didn't complain. He chewed quietly, watching her. She chewed faster, messier, wild, but never looked away from him. Something about that moment felt ancient, like two beings from different worlds, learning to share the same fire. He thought she might speak now, but she didn't. Instead, she placed the black stone between them again. It pulsed once, weak and soft. She touched it gently, like it meant something more than he could understand. Then she leaned forward, placed a finger on his chest, and said one word. Terex. He frowned. Derek, he replied, pointing to himself. She tilted her head. Durek, she repeated, slow and broken, but close enough. He smiled. Then she pointed to herself and tapped her chest. Terex. Now he understood. That was her name. In the middle of an alien jungle, on a world that wanted him dead, surrounded by beasts and silence. He'd just learned the name of the girl who saved his life, Terex, and for the first time since crashing. Here, Derek realized he wasn't entirely alone, but he still didn't know why she saved him, or why she kept testing that strange stone on him. He only knew this. Whatever she was planning, it hadn't even begun yet. A queen's exile rain fell without warning, not drops but sheets of glowing water. Like the sky had ripped open, Derek and Terex ran between thick trees as thunder cracked across the alien sky. She didn't flinch. But Derek struggled to keep up, slipping in mud, his clothes soaked. his feet raw. They didn't stop until she led him behind a curtain of vines, into a hidden cave that glowed faintly with blue stones. Inside, it was warm and dry. Terex lit a fire with one flick of her stone and dry moss from a pouch. Derek collapsed. Beside it, exhausted, but she didn't sit. She walked deeper into the cave, toward something ancient. He followed slowly, limping until he saw it too. A metal door, covered in dust and vines. Barely taller than her, it looked nothing like the jungle around them. This was not made by nature. It was built and it was old. Terex pressed her palm against a panel. The panel lit up. Red. Nothing happened. She tried again, still red. Her shoulders fell. Then she looked at Derek. Her eyes filled with something new. Not anger, not fear, but shame. She motioned for him to come. Closer, he stepped forward and placed his hand where she pointed. The panel flickered, then turned green. The door creaked open, slow and loud, revealing a dark hallway lined with faded lights and metallic walls. Inside were stone tablets, broken screens, rusted weapons, and a single pedestal with a glowing orb hovering above it. Terex stepped back, as if afraid. Derek looked around. What is this place? He asked, even though he knew she wouldn't answer. Still, her silence spoke loudly. This was her past. She walked to a wall and wiped off thick dust. Revealing a carving, it showed beings like her, dressed in glowing robes, standing over others in judgment. Below that, another figure, smaller. Cast out into a jungle, Derek understood. It was her. She had been exiled. Terex touched the wall gently, her fingers tracing the image of the cast-out figure. Then she turned to Derek and reached into her pouch, pulling out a thin silver device. She placed it on his neck. He flinched, a sharp sting, then static in his ears, and then her voice. Can you understand? She asked, her tone flat, unsure. Derek's eyes widened. You're speaking English, he whispered. She nodded slowly. Not English, she said. Machine speaks for me. He pointed to the glowing orb. What is that? She looked at it for a long time before answering. Memory core, she said. It holds truth. I cannot speak. She picked it up, and the orb came alive with swirling light. A hologram formed in the air, a tall, graceful female alien in royal robes. My daughter defied the bond, the voice said. She chose to protect a human against law. She is no longer heir. She is no longer mine. Derek watched the vision fade. He turned to Terex. That was your mother, he said. Softly, she nodded, her face stone. You were a princess, he whispered. No, she said, voice hard. I was a danger. She walked away from the orb, her back to him. They feared me, she said, because I saw value in your kind, because I refused to let a wounded man die when the law said I must. Derek stepped closer. So now you help me, he said, because of him? No, she said sharply, turning to face him. I help you, she said, because you are different. You passed the test. He frowned. What test? She pulled out the black stone again. This, she said, only awakens for those with heart and honor. Derek felt a chill run down his spine. You saved me because I triggered your tech? No, she said quietly. I saved you before. But now I know why I felt drawn to you. You were the key. The key to what? He asked. She looked at the orb, then at the walls around them. To reclaim what was taken from me. She said, to return not as a princess, but as a challenger. Derek took a step back. You want your throne back? No, she said. I want justice. She pressed her palm to the orb, and it glowed brighter. Ancient systems hummed to life. The jungle outside shook. Lights flickered in long-dead machines. And for the first time, Derek saw her not as wild. Not as strange, but as a force the galaxy had once feared, and maybe, just maybe, still should. Asterisk the trial of fire and blood. The air shifted. It wasn't wind, but pressure, heavy, tight, like the jungle itself was holding its breath. Derek felt. At first in his chest, a strange pounding like a second heartbeat. Terex stood motionless beside him in the cave. Her eyes locked on the glowing orb pulsing with energy. Then the light dimmed and the silence was broken by a sound no one wanted to hear. Footsteps, metal against stone, boots, not human, not wild, but trained, organized, cold. Terex turned sharply, her grip tightening around her spear. "They found us," she said, voice low. Derek's muscles tensed. "Who?" he asked. "My kind," she replied. "The ones loyal to the Queen. You're being hunted," he said. "No," she corrected. "We are," before he could ask more. The entrance of the cave lit up with a strange purple glow. 3 figures stepped through it all, armored, wearing masks like silver skulls. Their weapons weren't blades or guns, but staffs that hummed with energy. The lead soldier pointed one at Terex, by royal decree. A cold voice said through a translator, "You are to be removed." Terex didn't blink. "I claim the right of trial," she said, standing firm. "No trial," the soldier replied. "You are unworthy." Then the staff fired. A crack of energy burst toward her like lightning. She dodged it, rolled, and came up swinging. Her spear met the staff with a clash of sparks. "No." The second soldier rushed Derek, but Derek wasn't helpless anymore. He grabbed a rusted metal rod from the cave. Wallen swung it hard. The rod struck the attacker's arm, sending the weapon flying. Terex moved like a storm, fast and violent. Ducking low and stabbing upward into one of their armored joints, her spear snapped in half, but the blade stayed buried. The soldier dropped. Derek kicked another in the knee and ducked under a wild strike. He wasn't strong, but he was smart. He lured the attacker toward a pit in the cave floor and jumped aside at the last second. The soldier fell in, crashing into old bones and jagged rocks. Only one was left. The leader, Terex, charged. Her blade broken, her eyes wild. They clashed again. This time blade 2, energy. Sparks lit the cave like a storm. Then the soldier shouted something in their native tongue and pressed a switch on their belt, a signal, a warning. More are coming. Derek gasped. Terex pushed the leader back, grabbed the orb from its pedestal, and ran. "Move," she shouted. Derek followed her through the narrow tunnel in the back of the cave behind them. The sound of engines filled the sky. They broke out into the jungle as gunships hovered overhead, shining red lights through the trees. Derek and Terex ran through mud, branches snapping, roots clawing at their feet. Lasers cut through the canopy, missing by inches. Terex grabbed Derek's hand and yanked him behind a fallen tree. "Where do we go?" he asked, breathless. She pointed toward the mountains in the distance. "The Temple of the Heart," she said. "The place they fear. And why do they fear it?" he asked. "Because it only opens for one who bleeds with purpose," she said, "and burns with truth." "And that's you?" he asked. She looked at him not with pride, but with sadness. "No," she said softly. "That's you, Derek." Blinked, stunned. "Me." "You passed the ancient trial," she said. "You unlocked the vault. You were chosen, not by me, but by the old spirits." Behind them, the jungle caught fire from the laser blasts. Beasts screamed and ran. The sky thundered with the roar of engines. Still, she stood tall beside him, her body marked with blood and ash, and Derek knew the truth. This was not just her fight anymore. Now it was his too. They ran together, hunted and outnumbered. Deeper into the jungle toward the forgotten temple, toward whatever trial waited next, because the time for running was ending, and the time for fire and blood had begun. The bond ceremony, the jungle grew silent behind them. No more blaster fire, no more screams, only the quiet hum of wind moving through giant trees shaped like ribs. Derek and Terex reached the base of a steep cliff, its surface glowing faintly, with ancient patterns pulsing like veins beneath stone. "This is it," Terex whispered, her hand pressed to the cold surface. "The Temple of the Heart." Derek stared up at the wall. It looked like solid rock, but somehow it felt alive. "Where's the door?" he asked. Terex didn't answer. Instead, she turned to him, her expression more serious than ever before. "You are not ready yet," she said. "The gate opens only to one who completes the bond." Derek stepped back. "What bond?" he asked Terex. Removed a small silver dagger from a pouch and handed it to him. "You must share blood," she said with me. Derek's grip tightened around the blade. This is some kind of ritual? She nodded. It is the oldest rite of my people, she said, when two beings are joined, not by race, not by language, but by purpose. After this, we are no longer separate, she added. We become one path. Derek hesitated, staring at the blade, then at her. You want to tie yourself to a human forever? He asked. I don't want to, she said, voice quiet. But it is the only way to open the temple. He looked into her eyes. They weren't wild anymore, they were steady, brave and full of pain. She had lost everything, her title, her family, her home. Now she was offering him the last piece of herself. Derek nodded. He sliced a shallow line across his palm. Terex did the same. Then, she took his hand and pressed their bleeding palms together. The moment they touched, the cliff behind them responded. The stone lit up with lines of fire. Moving in waves from their hands to the temple wall, the rock split down the center, groaning. Like something ancient awakening, a doorway formed wide, tall, glowing blue with swirling mist behind it. Derek stepped forward, but Terex pulled him back. Not yet, she said. The bond must be sealed. She knelt beside a stone basin in front of the door with her free hand. She reached into the pouch and pulled out a small crystal sphere. She dropped it into the basin. It shattered into silver dust. The mist around the door thickened. Then it took shape, a giant figure-part beast. Mist, its body made of light and metal, its eyes burning with orange fire. Derek stepped back. What is that? Terex stood tall. It is the Guardian, she said, but it asked one question to test the bond. The creature raised its hand, and a voice echoed all around them. Would you bleed again for one who is not your kind? Derek looked at Terex. She didn't speak. This was his trial. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. Yes, he said. Not because I have to, but because I choose to. The Guardian stared. Then it bowed. The mist vanished, and the temple door opened. A gust of warm air rushed out, filled with glowing particles that swirled around them like fireflies inside. It was quiet walls, covered in alien carvings, symbols of ancient oaths and forgotten wars. At the center stood a single platform surrounded by stone pillars. Terex stepped onto it, her hand still linked with his. Suddenly, light surrounded them. The bond burned into their skin, not with pain, but with truth. Derek saw flashes of her past, her exile, her shame, her loneliness, and she saw his memories to his battles, his loss, his strength. Then it ended, and silence returned. Terex looked at him, her voice soft. It is done, she said. Derek stepped off the platform, heart pounding. What happens now? She looked toward the far end of the temple, where another door began to open. Now, she said, the throne will know we are coming, and it will try to destroy us before we arrive. Asterisk the return of the outcast. The sky above the capital burned gold, not from sunlight but from energy shields. Pulsing around the city like a cage, Terex stood at the edge of the cliff, overlooking the stronghold of her people. Her cloak billowed in the hot wind, the temple dust still clinging to her skin beside her.
Ow.
Derek stared at the shining towers that pierced the clouds. This place wasn't ruins, it was power, alive, waiting to crush anything that didn't belong. We go down there, he said quietly, and what happens? Terex did not answer right away. Instead, she removed a small metal ring from her belt and slipped it onto her wrist. It pulsed once, activating an ancient signal. The queen will know I've returned, she said, and by law she must allow me to speak before the high circle. Then we talk, he asked. No, she said. Then we fight for the right to talk. They moved quickly through the outer zones, hidden by the bond signature and the ancient mark. Now burned into Derek's skin, the gates opened for them, not willingly. But by ancient command the temple had reawakened. The guards stared, frozen, as Terex marched past them with a human by her side. Gasps echoed across the plaza. 1,000 voices whispered her name like a ghost's curse. Terex, the exiled, she walks with the outsider. They entered the Hall of Light, where the queen's throne rose high above the marble floor. And there she sought the queen. Regal and cold, her robes dark as shadow, her crown pulsing with power. Terex stepped forward and bowed. "I invoke my right of return," she declared. Silence fell. Then the queen stood. "You have no right," she said. "You are not my blood anymore. You carry filth beside you." Derek didn't flinch, but her words cut deep. He wasn't here for titles. He was here for truth. "I passed your ancient trial," he said. Stepping forward, the vault opened for me. "The bond has been made." The queen stared at him, her face unreadable. "You speak as if you matter," she said coldly. "Let us see if the gods agree." She raised her hand, and the floor split open beneath them. Derek and Terex fell into darkness, into the pit of trials. The ground hit hard. They rolled, got up fast, and then the walls lit with fire. 3 challengers stepped from the shadows. One wore golden armor, twice Derek's size. The second floated no feet, just energy. The third was cloaked in silence, blades in both hands, eyes hidden. "This is the test of soul," a voice said above them. "If you survive, you may speak." Terex nodded once. "We fight together," she said. Derek gripped a staff dropped from above. He had no sword, no armor, just skill, instinct, and pain. The first warrior charged, his steps shaking the ground. Derek ducked, struck low, and spun the staff hard into his opponent's knee. The giant stumbled, but didn't fall. Terex leapt from behind, flipped over the warrior's back, and stabbed into the joint of his armor. He collapsed. The second fighter launched waves of energy. Terex jumped in front of Derek and deflected the blast with a mirrored shield from the temple. Derek ran around the side, climbed a stone column, and dove from above, landing on the energy being with the staff pressed deep into its core. The third fighter vanished. Silence. Then blood. A blade slashed across Derek's arm. He shouted. Terex screamed in rage and spun fast, catching the attacker midair, driving her blade through the cloak. The third fell. Lifeless silence returned. Then light poured into the pit. The floor lifted them back to the throne room. The queen stood waiting, her face now unreadable. "You were supposed to die," she said to Terex. "But you didn't." Derek stepped forward, still bleeding, heart pounding. "I'm not here for war," he said. "I'm here because your daughter saw something in me your empire forgotten her." Terex stepped beside him. "I do not want your throne," she said. "I want your truth. I want to free those who were cast out like me." The queen stared long and hard, and then she turned her back. "You may speak," she said, "but the circle must decide your fate." Behind her, the stone walls began to tremble, and Derek knew the real battle wasn't over. It hadn't even begun yet. Her real intentions. The circle gathered beneath a silver dome high above the capital. 12 counselors stood in a perfect ring, each cloaked in robes of starlight thread, each wearing a mask carved from the bones of extinct beasts. At the center stood Terex. Beside her, Derek, bruised, scarred, but unshaken. Above them floated the orb from the temple, glowing soft blue, pulsing with the rhythm of their bond. The queen sat above the circle, silent, her crown dim. The high voice of the circle stepped forward. "You come with blood," he said. "With a foreigner in tow, you defy exile. You disturb peace." Terex raised her head. "No," she said, "I return with truth. I carry a bond your laws abandoned. I bring not war but witness." She turned to Derek, and for a moment he felt her heart through the link between them. Fast, heavy, afraid. He stepped forward. "I didn't come here to rule," he said, voice steady, "or to break your traditions. I came because she saved me, not just from the jungle, but from dying alone, forgotten. You say I am not one of you," he added, holding out the mark on his skin. "But your ancestors chose me when your systems woke again. They trusted something in me that you forgot to look for." The circle was silent. Then one counselor asked, "Why did she save you?" It was not a challenge but curiosity. Derek turned to Terex, and before he could speak, "She did because I saw him." Voice rising, "Long before the bond, long before the orb, and when he stood in fire and still chose mercy, when he bled for creatures not his own." Because he did not look at me as wild, she said, her voice breaking. He looked at me as whole. Derek looked at her, stunned. You never needed the temple, he whispered. You knew from the start. She nodded slowly. I did. She said, but the galaxy would never believe me until it saw you. You were the proof I could never give. You were my last truth, the council murmured. Some turned away, some stepped forward, and then the queen rose. The room falling into silence, she descended the stairs. Robe trailing behind her like black smoke, she walked past Derek without a glance, then stopped in front of Tarek slowly. She removed her crown and held it out. Tarek stepped back, stunned. I did not come for power, she said. The queen placed the crown at her feet. Then you are the first in 1,000 years worthy of it, she said. Tarek dropped to one knee, but not in surrender, in grief, for everything lost and everything finally found. Later, when the halls were empty and the people outside chanted her name, Tarek sat beside Derek at the edge of the palace. They looked out at the alien sky, quiet. He leaned back on his arms. So, we said you're a queen now, she glanced at him. I'm still wild, she replied, but now they have to listen. He smiled. And what now? She reached for his hand and held it gently. Now, she said, we build something new, together. He squeezed her hand. Your people may never fully accept me, he said. She looked into his eyes. Then we will make our own people, she said, one bond at a time. The wind carried their laughter into the stars, and somewhere in the jungle below, the old machines of the temple pulsed again, not for war, but for hope. The end.